has also talked about Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean. On Chinese vessel, he talked about that last 20 to 25 years, there has been a steady increase in the Chinese naval presence and activity in the Indian Ocean. When you have a very much bigger navy, that navy is going to be visible in terms of its deployment somewhere. In our own case, we have seen Chinese port activity building as well, as far as the Gwadar and Hambantota is concerned. Now, there are a few others. We obviously do watch many of them very carefully for any security implications. From an Indian point of view, it's very reasonable for us to prepare for a far greater Chinese presence than we have seen before. Let's listen into what exactly did External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar say about Chinese vessel.
Let me first say that pearls look benign unless you ask the oysters. So they may have a slightly different perspective.
Happy with the pearls.
But the point is, yes, if one were to look at the last 20, 25 years, there's been a steady increase in the Chinese naval presence and activity in the Indian Ocean. But there's been a very sharp increase in the size of the Chinese Navy. So when you have a very much bigger Navy, I mean, that Navy is going to be obviously visible in terms of its deployment somewhere. I guess when you come out of the east coast of China, you either go into the Pacific or you turn westwards and come into the Indian Ocean. Now, in our own case, we have seen, Chinese port activity, port building. You mentioned Gwadar. There's a port called Hambantota in Sri Lanka. There are a few others. Now, in many cases, I would say, looking back, maybe the governments of the day, the policymakers of the day, perhaps underestimated the importance of this and how these ports could work in future. Each one is a little unique in a way, and certainly, we obviously do watch, many of them very carefully for any security implications that they have for us. So, from an Indian point of view, I would say it's very reasonable for us to to actually prepare for a far greater Chinese presence than we have seen before.
Abhishek continues to be with me on the broadcast. Abhishek, coming back to you, could you please elaborate the point that External Affairs Minister said about major and larger Chinese presence that can be expected, and it is reasonable for us to expect that as we have seen before?
Well, we know that Chinese government has been on an expansionist mode and in the last 1 decade or so, ever since Xi Jinping has become sort of unchallenged leader in China. The expansionist operation has been going on with little more speed, and we have seen India-China standoff at the borders in LAC. The same Chinese expansionist policy is also being opposed by Japanese in the South China Sea. There have been Taiwan Strait crisis as well, where the Chinese military is regularly having incursion into the territory of the Taiwanese government or the Taiwanese civil zone. And also Chinese expansionist policy has been far richer implication in terms of debt that China has provided to certain smaller nations in Indo-Pacific countries or the countries in African nation who did not have enough means to support their infrastructural development. So Chinese government came and they supported their government with the infrastructural development projects. And now these countries are not being able to pay the Chinese government back. And on the cost of it, the Chinese are trying to leverage those debt as their strategic advantage points. And this is where the Indian concern has been that several of smaller island nations in the Indo-Pacific have also been receiving debt from the Chinese side, and now China is trying to arm twist them and use those favors as a strategic advantage against dominance of India We have seen that happening in the case of Maldives. We have seen that happening in the case of Sri Lanka, of course. Bangladesh has been dealing with that debt crisis. So clearly, China is trying to increase its presence both in terms of financial, favors that it is doing to the countries, and also strategic advantage that it can create around India to not let India unleash at the world stage as a major economic power or major defense power.
Definitely, Abhishek. We'll try to talk about the strategic advancements and advantages that China is trying to conquer against India. Thank you so much for bringing in all those crucial details for now, Abhishek.